where do you see Liverpool slipping up? Never mind dropping, even if Arsenal win the game in hand, Liverpool would have to drop 11 points. 10 for Arsenal to be level, 11 for them to get ahead. They don't look like dropping any, really. And Arsenal, I mean, you mentioned the goals were a problem again. Well, yeah, but creating anything decent was a problem. And then when you create something tangible, and a Mikel Marino or a Trossard or a Wanya, whoever it is missing those chances, you go, well, maybe a striker would have put that in. But they're not even, and not just this game, West Ham at the weekend, they're not even creating those, those great chances, those, or should have scored, or that was they're not even creating those that you go, they're just flat as a pancake. And if you listen to Arteta, it just looks like he's in the league, he's given up the ghost this season. And that's how they look on the field.
Yeah, very much so. Liverpool head and shoulders above everyone else, really, Nadim, isn't it?
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think as you saw today with Stevie saying it as well, they just looked so confident. I think for me, when I look at certain teams, look at individuals, when they make it look easy, just think about how good they must be. And as Liverpool have shown in the recent weeks, and especially in this game, this is against a dangerous Newcastle side, a side who would be travelling to Anfield hoping to maybe leave a mark before the Carabao Cup final in a few weeks' time. But instead, Liverpool made them look like the most routine of sides. It was so comfortable for them defensively, in midfield, in attack. You've got Salah, having one of the most iconic seasons in Premier League history as well. So it's fantastic for Liverpool to be in that position. But then we look at the other side, look at a team like Arsenal going to play against a dogged Nottingham Forest side, but not being able to have that spark, not having the individuals to have those moments. And instead, it's almost like paint by numbers. This is what it's going to be. We're going to play this way. We might create a chance, or we don't create a chance. And as Craig was saying, they're not creating huge opportunities on a week-to-week basis. And I think, realistically, if you do create those and you don't take them, you say, well, we've got some momentum going into the next game. But today against Forest, there wasn't really much there beyond the set pieces. And when those set pieces are going in, then great. But otherwise, this was a must-win game for them, as is the case with all the other ones. But instead, the title's done. And for Arsenal, they need to try and find some sort of form and good energy before the season fizzles out with nothing at all.
What's happened to them, Naden? Over the last 18 months, Arsenal were the team to watch, given the entertainment value as well as the results they were getting. And obviously, injuries are a massive factor in that. But it can't be the only factor, can it?
No, absolutely not. I think in the previous, say, 2 seasons, I think Arsenal have been very, very consistent, but they've sort of let themselves down in key moments throughout the season. Whereas this year, you saw the way that they started with some of the red cards that they were receiving. You look at some of the injuries that they then had at key moments. Odegaard being out for a stretch, you can see the impact that had, and then that was followed by a Saka injury. And I think for Arteta, he was faced with the sort of dilemma of, well, how do you replace these players? Because for the past 2 years prior, in the success that they'd had, relatively speaking, those players were stalwarts. They were ever present. They were playing basically every minute of every game. And now the people that were coming in weren't able to sort of have that same impact. And yes, they still had the dogged nature in terms of how they defended. But I think you could sense from early in the season that the defence itself was not going to be the difference between them being successful this year or not being. And now some of those games arrived where defensively, it's good. They've not conceded. They've only conceded 1. But can you score 2? Can you score 1? And unfortunately, like some of the issues which they've had, that's basically been it. They've not been able to score enough, and as a consequence, they just fall further and further behind Liverpool, the team who can find ways to win a game of football however they like, whether it's a 1-0, whether it's a 4-0, control a game with the tempo or be more direct and be like hair-raising type football. Liverpool are the complete package, but for Arsenal, they just feel like a defensive side at the moment. They're good at set pieces.
Is it a coincidence that Arteta pretty much grew up with Pep, and both sides are kind of morphing into each other? The that dynamism that Arsenal once had is completely gone. And when you watch Arsenal, in my opinion, okay, against Forest, you can see how it happens. That you get a lot of the ball, and there's men behind the ball, and you can't find any space. But this has been happening for the last 2 or 3 months. It's slow build-up, let everybody get back in position. Any team, regardless of who it is able to defend against you. It's just like watching City. Is it a coincidence that Arteta's a disciple of Pep? I don't think so.
I would also say that when Arsenal were trying to figure out who they were going to be this season, there was this sort of this plan or this philosophy that we're going to be nasty. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to win challenges. We're going to be tough to beat, and we're going to depend on the set pieces that Nathan was talking about. You can't fake nasty. See, Historically, we've known, say, for example, Atletico Madrid, that defensively they've been nasty and they thrive in that environment. This group of players of Arsenal is not built to do that. Odegaard is not that player. Bukayo Saka is not that player. They have talented players in the attack to be a dynamic group, like Stevie was just mentioning. And so they got into this groove of, we're going to fight people. We're going to get red cards. We're going to get yellow cards. We're going to win on set pieces. This is who we are. That's not who you are as a team in terms of the player personnel that's available to Mikel Arteta. And they were never able to then evolve to what they once were. They got caught up in between in either being a creative team or a nasty team. And in between teams usually struggle to get results with consistency. And we saw that from Arsenal over the course of this whole season.
It boils down to recruitment, doesn't it?
Well, you look at that, you look at Mourinho up top, and yes, Jesus is injured and Havertz
Well,
is
you
injured,
look at
but come on.
Mourinho as a full picture. Did they really? And I'm not saying he's a good player, he's a Spanish international, but he doesn't always play. But they brought in Calafiore, who's a good player. Mikel Marino is a good player, but he's a midfielder. They had Partey, they had Jorginho, they had Rice, they had Odegaard. They then go and bring in Sterling. Stevie calls him a bust. That's hard to argue with that. Probably not even as good as that. So they brought these players in to bolster the midfield, which it has, but they were sorely lacking. And are they the only ones that didn't see this, or were they so stuck in their own ways that they thought the Havertz thing's going to work for us? I know he's injured. Gabriel Jesus, you couldn't rely on him. Came in, scored some goals. Unfortunately, he got injured. The Saka is the big blow. I understand that, but sometimes you have to cope with these things. But when they went out and spent money in the summer, did it have to be in another midfielder who was going to play probably 50% of the games when you needed really somebody up front? That has been glaring for a lot of people. And now that's biting them in the back.
To that point, at the start of the season, the majority of us went for an Arsenal win to win the Premier League. So what did we not see then that has obviously transpired? Or did we just think that there was enough there to get them across the line?
I think we thought that City would struggle to keep it going, but not as bad as it's been. I don't think anybody saw that. But I think we saw City. Did they have the push and desire to go again? And it's been more than that. But I also thought the reason I certainly went for Arsenal with the problems that they still have and have had is because I never for 1 second thought Liverpool were going to be as slick as they have been. So I felt it would be Arsenal or City.
Yeah.
And City, for all those reasons I mentioned.
Frank's on the phone.
Yeah. I never at any point felt that Arne Slot could come in and deliver what he's done. And for those reasons, I thought Arsenal would have had enough. But it has been quite clear that when teams raise their game, Man City and now Liverpool, Arsenal have been left wanting. And they're going to have to go away and look at themselves and say, right, are we going to keep denying the fact that, being in denial that we need to sign a top-level striker if we're going to be operating at the top of the league or possibly winning the league? And if they don't do that and don't address it, he's going to be out of job in 12 months, 18 months or whatever it is. If other teams keep winning the league, if Liverpool go again, if City come back, if Chelsea somehow come up with the goods and they're back in the title race and Arsenal are still not doing it, he's under big pressure.
Should we see how the bookies have this, by the way, with regards to the title race? Where are we at? Odds on, obviously, for Liverpool, but how much? Let's take a look. 100 to 1. So you've got about $100 on to win $1. All right. That's where we're at. So I think it's fair to say.
I'm going to go ahead and skip that one.
Then it's all over. Last word to you on the Premier League title race, Nathan.
Yeah, I think, I thought it was going to be a good race, but Arsenal have just fallen off, and Liverpool by far have been the most consistent side this season. Sometimes you could look at them earlier in the year and we said, they're not maybe playing to their best and so on, but they had the ability to grind out results from the get-go. And for them to be in this position now, as we saw today, the way they played, there's so much confidence, so many players in great form, and they know that the title's going to be there. So they're going to enjoy these games domestically. And I can't see them really dropping many points between now and the end of the season, to be honest.
Is the title race done and dusted?
Oh, yes, absolutely over. I mean, 100%. It's been a feeble challenge from anyone in the Premier League. Liverpool are going to walk away with it. They've been by far the best team. They've been efficient all season. I wouldn't say they've been, like a Barcelona under Pep Guardiola, or even a Man City, but they've just got it done. They've been so strong defensively, organised. They know how to win games. And yeah, I just think they're going to run away with it. They've been by far the best side, and Arsenal, Man City, been nowhere near good enough to keep up with them.
Well, let's take a look at the remaining league fixtures, because you say it's done. Can you see any potential bumps in the road when you look at these remaining fixtures?
I'll definitely Tottenham. They'll lose that one, Joe. That's a no-brainer. 3 points for Spurs there.
Of course.
No, look, not really. Do you know, like the Arsenal game could have been, a fantastic match, going into the last few games of the season. But I just think Arsenal have let it go. They've allowed them to get too many points. There's too many games they've got at home as well. They've got home fixtures now, and they're so strong at Anfield, and the fans are going to be behind them. And they're like a 12th man there. So I just think that they've just done enough. They're so good defensively. They're so organised. I've been really disappointed with Arsenal, I have to say. I thought this season would have been a great opportunity for them to really, stake their claim and have a go. Man City have dropped off. We've seen a huge drop-off from them. And Arne Slot's come in his first season, he's come over and he's going to win the Premier League. He's got a massive chance to win the Carabao Cup. He might win the Champions League. Arsenal must sit there and think, crying out loud, what do we need to do to get one over the line?
Yeah, and we're going to bring in another graphic, because this shows the earliest title wins in terms of games left. That's a record that Liverpool hold. 2019-20 season, they won it with 7 games left. The gap at 13 points right now. They're on course to win it with 4 games left of the season. I mean, you touched on the fact that it's Arne Slot's first season in charge. There's not a lot of people that at the start of the season will be backing Liverpool to win it with 4 games left to play. Have you been surprised by just how dominant they've been?
Yeah, I've been surprised. I'm not going to lie. I think, I don't think anyone would sit there and say that they thought that Liverpool were going to be the team that win league. I think everyone was still talking Arsenal and Man City. But let's not take anything away from the fact that Arne Slot has come in and done an incredible job. He's changed the way they play. It's rock and roll football under Jurgen Klopp. They'd go and win a game 3-4-0, but then they could get beat. But under Arne Slot, they're a different side. They're organised. They're hard to break down. They're solid in midfield. And when you've got Mo Salah in your team, who, for me, could be a Ballon d'Or winner, absolutely, with how good he's been, they have got the potential, to walk away with all the titles. Let's not forget Champions League. They got to be one of the favourites to win that as well. So, incredible job he's done. Pathetic from everyone else. Arsenal and Man City have been nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you that. Is it a case of Liverpool just being really good, or has the rest of the league been pretty bad?
I think the rest of the league... Well, I wouldn't say the rest of the league. I would say Arsenal and Man City. If you're looking at title challenges at the start of the season, it's Arsenal and Man City. I think the rest of the league has done unbelievable. You look at the teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, all having great seasons. Fantastic. And I think the Premier League has scrunched together the middle table teams who normally would do okay and get 45 points. They're now going to get 55, 60 points, which is amazing. But the teams at the top, they've dropped off. Man City have been miles off it. We know that. It's a rebuild for them. But the biggest disappointment is Arsenal. This was their season. Man City dropping off. This was their season to go and take it. And they haven't done it. They apple crumbled like they always do. And it's disappointing because you wanted a closer title challenge and they've not stepped up to the plate. And I think Arsenal fans are going to be gutted because there's a great chance. And next season, Man City will be back.
Martin Keown has argued that Arsenal have not taken a step backwards this season despite Mikel Arteta's side sitting some way off runaway Premier League leaders Liverpool approaching the business end of the season. The Gunners have challenged for the ultimate honours in the English top flight for a number of seasons, but have failed to overturn Manchester City the last 2 times of asking. With Man City's autumn form far from their best, many assumed that the North London club would be ideally poised to finally secure their second Premier League title. Instead, Arteta's players have endured an imperfect period, most recently ending their winning record at home with a 1-0 defeat against West Ham. But rather than suggesting that Arsenal were moving backwards instead of progressing, club legend Keown insisted that the side have been hampered by injury that could have otherwise allowed them to keep their title-chasing dreams alive. No, it hasn't been a backward step this year. I think the team is getting ever stronger, Keown said on TNT Sports ahead of the Gunners' clash with Nottingham Forest. I don't think you can plan for creative players at the top of the pitch to get injured. With Man City's autumn form far from their best, many assumed that the North London club would be ideally poised to finally secure their second Premier League title instead. Arteta's players have endured an imperfect period, most recently ending their winning record at home with a 1-0 defeat against West Ham. But rather than suggesting that Arsenal were moving backwards instead of progressing, club legend Keown insisted that the side have been hampered by injury that could have otherwise allowed them to keep their title-chasing dreams alive. No, it hasn't been a backward step this year. I think the team is getting ever stronger, Keown said on TNT Sports ahead of the Gunners' clash with Nottingham Forest. I don't think you can plan for creative players at the top of the pitch to get injured.